Israel's secret war crimes, starving hostages in Gaza. Recent distressing footage of emaciated captives in Gaza has ignited a surge in public outcry against Israel, intensifying calls for a ceasefire. On a Saturday evening, the Hostages Square in Tel Aviv became a stage for impassioned protests by the families of the hostages, urging the release of their kin from Hamas's clutches in the embattled Gaza Strip. The images, which have now become a focal point of contention, were captured by Ariel Shalit, AP, documenting the anguish of the captives and the fervent demands of their loved ones. Ofir Braslavsky, a father tormented by the sight of his son Ram's suffering, witnessed the heart-wrenching scene unfold as Ram, visibly frail and in torment, writhed on a soiled mattress somewhere within the confines of the Gaza Strip. The chilling scenes, recently unveiled by Palestinian militants, have sent shockwaves through Israel, compelling Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to grapple with the mounting pressure to broker a ceasefire with Hamas, even as his administration contemplates further military escalation, an action that has already left much of Gaza in ruins and teetering on the brink of famine. The videos depicting the harrowing conditions of two captives, Ram Braslavsky and Eviatar David, have galvanized tens of thousands of Israelis to rally for peace, marking one of the most significant gatherings in recent times. Ram, in his video released by the Islamic Jihad militant group, discloses that injuries to his foot render him unable to stand, while Eviatar, in a separate clip released by Hamas, shares his despair over days spent without sustenance, even contemplating his own demise. Ofir Braslavsky, whose son Ram was seized by Islamic Jihad on October 7, 2023, during a music festival in southern Israel, has been reduced to a shadow of his former self, grappling with the stark contrast between his son's vibrant personality and the broken figure he sees in the footage. The AP, though typically refraining from airing videos of hostages under duress, made an exception upon receiving consent from the families involved. The distressing visuals have catalyzed a massive public response, with thousands taking to the streets to demand an immediate ceasefire. Braslavsky notes that Ram appears significantly deteriorated compared to his condition 4 months prior. Once filled with hope and resilience, Ram's eyes now betray a sense of resignation, a haunting indication of his waning will to endure the unbearable suffering. In light of these developments, Netanyahu announced his intention to convene the cabinet to address the objectives he has outlined for the ongoing conflict: dismantling Hamas, securing the return of the captives, and ensuring Gaza no longer poses a threat to Israel's security. However, his proposal to escalate military operations faces fierce resistance, both domestically and internationally, with prominent security experts and cultural figures voicing their disapproval. The situation in Gaza is dire, with experts warning of an impending famine, a catastrophe exacerbated by Israel's military onslaught that has claimed countless lives and obstructed the safe delivery of humanitarian aid. The plight of the Palestinians, depicted through images of widespread hunger, has sparked global outrage against Israel's actions. The families of the captives fear that the scarcity of food may also jeopardize the survival of the remaining hostages. With less than half of the 50 surviving hostages believed to be alive, the urgency to act is palpable. Netanyahu, visibly moved by the captives' plight, has sought the Red Cross's intervention to provide food and medical assistance to the hostages, a request that has historically been denied by Hamas. When I see these images, I understand precisely what Hamas aims to achieve, Netanyahu stated on Sunday. Their goal isn't negotiation. It's to break our spirit with these horrific videos. The International Committee of the Red Cross expressed its profound distress over the videos and called for immediate access to the captives. Hamas, in response, has indicated a willingness to accommodate the Red Cross's requests for delivering food to the captives, contingent upon the establishment of consistent and secure humanitarian corridors in Gaza. They deny allegations of deliberately starving the captives, asserting that they share the same hardships as the general Palestinian population. Broslavsky, however, remains unconvinced, noting that the captors in the footage appear well-nourished. This scarcity is intentional, he asserts. It's evident they aren't suffering from lack of aid. An emergency meeting of the UN Security Council has been convened by Israel to address the hostage crisis, scheduled for Tuesday. Israel's Foreign Minister, Gideon Sa'ar, intends to attend the meeting in person. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza continues to escalate, with reports of additional starvation-related deaths. Since early March, Israel had enforced a stringent blockade on Gaza, preventing the entry of food, medicine, and other essentials until mid-May, when restrictions were slightly relaxed. The UN estimates that nearly 1,400 Palestinians have lost their lives while attempting to access aid, primarily due to Israeli forces' interventions. The Israeli military maintains that they have only employed warning shots. Gaza's health ministry reported on Monday that 5 more Palestinian adults succumbed to malnutrition-related complications in the preceding 24 hours, bringing the total number of such deaths to 87 since late June. Additionally, 93 children have perished due to malnutrition since the outbreak of hostilities in Gaza. Israel disputes claims of starvation in the region. Approximately 1,200 individuals, predominantly civilians, lost their lives during the Hamas assault on southern Israel that ignited the conflict, while another 251 were taken captive. Israel's retaliatory offensive has resulted in over 60,900 Palestinian fatalities, according to Gaza's health ministry. Although the ministry does not differentiate between civilian and combatant casualties, it acknowledges that women and children comprise more than half of the deceased. The UN and independent analysts consider the ministry's figures to be the most credible casualty count, although Israel has contested these numbers without providing alternatives. Hamas agrees to Red Cross aid for Israeli captives amid Gaza starvation crisis. Hamas has expressed its willingness to allow the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, to provide food and medical assistance to Israeli captives currently held in Gaza. This announcement follows a request made by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who reached out to the Geneva-based organization for their intervention. The backdrop to these statements includes the recent release of distressing videos by Palestinian groups, which depicted 2 severely malnourished Israeli captives. This situation unfolds against the grim reality faced by approximately 2 million Palestinians in Gaza, who are enduring a severe starvation crisis exacerbated by Israeli actions. On Sunday, Netanyahu revealed that he had a conversation with Julian Larson, the head of the ICRC delegation in Israel, urging for the organization's immediate involvement in ensuring that captives receive essential food and medical care. In a post on X, Netanyahu asserted in Hebrew that he informed Larson that Hamas was spreading a false narrative about starvation in the region, while he claimed that a systematic starvation campaign was being waged against the hostages. Later that day, Abu Obaida, the spokesperson for Hamas's military wing, the Qassam Brigades, issued a statement asserting that the Israeli captives in Gaza are provided with the same food as Hamas fighters and the local population. He emphasized that these captives would not receive any special treatment amidst the ongoing siege and starvation crisis. However, he also indicated that Hamas is prepared to positively respond to any requests from the Red Cross for delivering food and medicine to the Israeli prisoners, for such requests to be honored. Abu Obaida insisted that humanitarian corridors must be established in a consistent and reliable manner to facilitate the delivery of food and medical supplies to all areas of the Gaza Strip. He further stated that all forms of Israeli attacks must cease during the delivery of aid packages for the prisoners. The ICRC, in a statement released on Sunday, expressed its shock at the distressing videos of the captives and reiterated its demand for access to the hostages. The organization described these videos as clear evidence of the perilous conditions under which the hostages are being held. They acknowledge the anguish and heartbreak experienced by families watching these videos. as they witness the dire circumstances of their loved ones. According to the ICRC's website, gaining access to the hostages necessitates cooperation from all parties involved. They also noted that they have been unable to visit any Palestinian detainees in Israeli custody since October 7, 2023. In a separate statement, the ICRC condemned the killing of a staff member from the Palestine Red Crescent Society, PRCS, in a clearly marked PRCS facility in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza. While the PRCS attributed the attack to Israeli forces, the ICRC did not specify who was responsible. In a related development, families of the Israeli captives voiced their concerns on Sunday, stating that Netanyahu's persistent belief in a military solution poses a direct threat to the lives of their sons, who are trapped in the perilous tunnels and face the imminent dangers of starvation and death. They criticized the narrative that military pressure would lead to the return of the hostages, arguing that after 22 months, the public has been misled into thinking that such an approach would yield results. They expressed skepticism about the feasibility of any agreement, even before a comprehensive draft is reached. Currently, there are around 50 Israeli captives believed to be in Gaza, with fewer than half thought to still be alive. The situation is further complicated by reports from the government media office in Gaza, which stated that only 36 aid trucks were permitted to enter the Gaza Strip on Saturday, while a staggering 22,000 aid trucks remain stranded outside, waiting to deliver essential supplies to the Palestinian population. The United Nations office in Geneva has also raised alarms, stating that 1 million women and girls in Gaza are facing starvation. In a post on X, the UN declared, 1 million. That's how many women and girls are starving in Gaza. This horrific situation is unacceptable and must end. We continue to demand the delivery of life-saving aid for all women and girls, an immediate ceasefire, and the release of all hostages. Tragically, at least 175 individuals, including 93 children, have been confirmed dead due to forced starvation, as reported by the territory's Ministry of Health. Among the deceased is 17-year-old Atef Abu Khater, whose weight had plummeted to just 25 kilograms, 55 pounds, before he succumbed to starvation on Saturday. Hamas offers aid for hostages, conditions and consequences. Imagine a scenario where the lives of hostages and the welfare of an entire population hinge on a delicate negotiation between two bitter rivals. This is the grim reality in Gaza right now. Hamas has made a bold statement. They are willing to allow aid for the hostages they hold, but only if Israel stops its airstrikes and opens permanent humanitarian corridors. This controversial demand has sparked a flurry of international reactions and raised critical questions about the ethics of negotiation in times of crisis. Let's break it down. Israel has been under immense pressure to ease its restrictions on Gaza, which have severely limited the flow of essential supplies like fuel and food. The situation has reached a dire point, with 6 more Palestinians dying from starvation or malnutrition in the past 24 hours, bringing the total to 175 deaths. This includes 93 children, a heartbreaking figure that underscores the urgency of the situation. But here's where it gets controversial. Hamas's conditions for allowing aid to reach the hostages. They want Israel to halt airstrikes and open permanent humanitarian corridors. This has sparked a heated debate. Some argue that Israel should do everything in its power to save the hostages, while others believe that giving in to Hamas's demands could set a dangerous precedent. Israel has already taken steps to alleviate the crisis, allowing 4 UN fuel trucks to enter Gaza to support hospitals, bakeries, and other essential services. However, the fuel shortages have been crippling, forcing doctors to prioritize only the most critical cases. This has been the reality since March, when Israel tightened its restrictions to pressure Hamas into releasing the hostages. And this is the part most people miss: the human cost of this conflict. The Gaza Health Ministry reports that fuel shortages have severely impaired hospital services, leaving doctors to focus only on the critically ill or injured. The situation is so dire that doctors are forced to make impossible choices, prioritizing who gets treatment and who doesn't. Meanwhile, the international community is watching closely. Countries like France, Germany, the UK, and the US have expressed outrage over the treatment of the hostages, particularly after Hamas released a video showing an emaciated captive digging what he believed to be his own grave. The video has sparked global condemnation and calls for immediate action. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has asked the Red Cross to provide humanitarian assistance to the hostages, highlighting the urgent need for action. The Hostages Families Forum has demanded the immediate release of the hostages, emphasizing that Hamas has a moral obligation to care for them until